we are right now on the tail end. Only 4 episodes to go after this. We picked this up where it says several decades earlier. Now, several decades earlier indicates that this could be 50, 60, 70 years previously, where Eclipso persuades Bruce Gordan to give him control of his own body. Now, by this, so that he can get Bruce the love of his life, who is with another man, and that he will do all the dirty work if Bruce lets Eclipso possess him. Now, I have to say, I'm going to revisit this later on in the review, so just remember, we're at this fixed point in time where Eclipso's talking about the love of his life in terms of Bruce Gordan and how he's coaxed him into trying to get them back. So let's move on. We go to the original JSA attending Rebecca McNider's funeral. Now, what we learn here is that Starman was a very stern character with Pat as his sidekick. It's something you've never really seen with Batman and Robin. It's almost at times like Pat wasn't valued by Starman in regards to his views or opinions. Like Pat should know his place as a sidekick and speak when he's spoken to. And I wasn't really expecting that. It took me by surprise, to be honest, because I've always thought of Pat as a very knowledgeable person and trusty sidekick. And when I talk like that, I always refer to Robin in Batman or Bucky in Captain America and Bucky Barnes. And those are always things. We could probably bring Speedy and Green Arrow into that as well. And there's always been a mentor sort of father-son relationship in that regard. What we're seeing here is something completely different. And I got to be honest, at times I thought Starman was rude. I thought the way how he just shut the door on Stripesy, I thought, what the hell is this guy? Has this guy got any respect or admiration for his sidekick? The way how he treated him, I got to be honest, guys, I'm not sure about that. If I was a director and I shot that episode, and it's not just this time, it's happened previously before, but I didn't say anything about it because I didn't even know if it was a thing. But it's definitely a thing. Starman is rude. He's obnoxious. And we have to take that as the personality of the character because, look, guys, we don't know what this guy's like. We haven't seen enough screen time of Sylvester Pemberton. So nobody here can say that this is what the guy was truly like because we don't know him. All we know from his character was that he had a fight in the first 5 minutes of the first episode in season 1, and he's been knocking on the doors trying to track down Pat Dugan in the first episode of season 2. Other than that, we actually don't know anything about Starman. Anything. And we can't take the comic reference at all. We can't use that as a reference because most of the comics for Stargirl was really akin to her character. So it stands to reason why some of the team felt that Pat was or wasn't a member of the team. It's also what we see, something that plays itself out in the decision-making process when they call for votes. If the team wants to do something or if they don't want to do something, we see that some of the team felt that Pat was a valued member and that he needed to speak his mind, and others just thought, yeah, you know what, you're a sidekick, speak when you're spoken to, and actually you're not even part of the team, you're just his mate, you're just his errand boy. Yeah, that's how Ted Grant, Wildcats, looked at it. And I thought, what kind of culture is this? But remember, guys, I have to say, JSA has always been done in a sort of, not Elseworld story, but it was always Earth 2 in the olden times. Like, this was kind of set in a time where it was the 1940s or 1950s or 19... Think of the Minutemen in the Watchmen series. That's how the JSA in the comics has always been viewed. Very old-fashioned, very sort of balls-to-the-wall type of action, thought patterns from these people in the old-time ways. And I think that is indicative of what we see from the team in this episode. So I was really looking forward to seeing Jay Garrick on the show, and it was a nice cameo, but in fairness, not what I was expecting. Think of John Diggle going around different shows offering up some much-needed wisdom and advice, rather than just balling out with his power and, you know, sort of taking control and helping the team that way. We didn't see that. So some people might be disappointed with Jay Garrick's cameo. And yeah, it's not what you thought it was going to be. It definitely is one of a John Diggle cameo. There's also no sign of Beth. Yolanda's obviously gone. Guys, we should get to see Jenny Jade next week. Calling her two names here, Jenny Jade. We should get to see her next week because the trailers shows that she's turned up again. But we've always said that Shade will try his best to protect Pat's family, and he definitely stepped up with Barbara in this episode. Now, moving on, guys, the weather is building up to be a terrible storm, and that just tells you how powerful Eclipso is getting. And everyone's sort of bedding themselves in and getting ready for what, on record, must be the worst summer that they had ever. There's rain, there's tropical storms. At some points, there's ice, but we'll come on to that in a second. Pat is saying, look, let's weather the storm. Let's bed ourselves in. Let's try and ride this thing out. And Courtney's not having any of it. Courtney's basically saying, I refuse to let Eclipso torment her friends. I'm not going to stand for it anymore. And she was right, because they had never been ready for a fight. Pat's saying, let's prepare. Let's get ourselves ready. And she's like, get up, prepare for what? We've always been thrown in the deep end and we've always come out victorious. So why do we have to do it this time? Courtney showing a lot of experience there, guys, and a lot of leadership, because she's right. And I think, for me, the plot starts to come together when we see Pat looking at a coffin in his living room. And this is implying another illusion from Eclipso. We see the meaning behind this in another flashback, revealing a conversation he had with Starman about how to tackle Eclipso. So let's dive into that a little bit. Starman learns from a parley with Shade that killing Eclipso's host, Bruce Gordan, will force Eclipso back into the Black Diamond, but Pat and Jay Garrick advise him not to do that. So Starman explains how Eclipso is not even human. He's a spiritual parasite, and the only way to stop him is to kill the host. That way, he'll return to his diamond form. Now, remember, guys, Pat told Mike not to play about with the cracked diamond. So maybe something happens with that. Maybe the diamond reforms itself if there's a spell or if there's something. I mean, everyone's saying get John Constantine into the show. I would definitely think that would be a good move. But there's definitely a way how to get him back in that diamond after he broke himself free. We just don't know what it is yet. Maybe the Shade knows, because maybe this is something that the Wizard obviously thought about as well. Because what I want to know is, how did the diamond get from Starman to the Wizard? How was the Wizard able to take hold of something like that, something that powerful, when Starman had it, and Starman had it in safekeeping? So maybe this is something that we'll see play out later on in the show as another flashback. I do like these flashbacks, guys. They add in a lot of context to the show. But this is where the team puts this to a vote. And it's interesting, because do they kill Eclipso or do they not kill Eclipso? Pat obviously shares Starman's values, right? And when Pat and the Flash vote against Our Man and this is Rex Tyler, Our Man, and Wildcat Ted Grant, it's a 2-on-2 split. So it turns out that the person who made the hard call was Starman. And imagine how Batman or Superman would have reacted to this JSA vote. Imagine how they would have voted as well. It's shocking to see, I agree. But something we'd expect someone like Batman to agree to and Superman not to agree to. All of this is because we never got to know who the real Starman is on the show, and I hope it's something that we continue to build on. So Courtney is the silent hero in this episode. She doesn't really do much in terms of kitting up into a uniform, but what she does is Cosmo, I can't believe we're calling the staff Cosmo. This is unbelievable. Cosmo the staff is even weaker than he was before, but she still used Cosmo to bail out Mike and then Pat by just letting them touch the staff and sort of seeing the light, rather than being clouded by those dark, smoky visions of Eclipso. Now, I love the look on Pat's face when he realised it was the staff that had broken him out of Eclipso's spell. Now, he was holding onto that thing like the cross of Jesus. It was crazy. And the one thing that didn't make sense to me was the whole blood on your hands vision. Now, Eclipso was saying to Pat, you've got blood on your hands because of the death of Bruce Gordan, and we see Pat rigorously just trying to wash blood off his hands. But that would have had more sense had Pat actually voted to kill Bruce Gordan. The fact that he didn't agree to it gave that blood on your hands scene less weight. I didn't really think that Pat wouldn't have been affected by that because he didn't make the bad decision. So again, guys, when Pat tells Courtney the truth about JSA killing Bruce Gordan, it angered her to the point where she confronts her mother about it because she realized Barbara knew as well. And the knowledge of Eclipso while he was a young boy really, really hurt her in terms of the trust, because Courtney's always gone out to be honest and doesn't want to keep secrets from everybody. And what disappointed her was the fact that she's looking for leadership and guidance from her parents and her mentor in Pat. She told Pat that she loved him in this episode, which was a first. And most importantly, she asked him countless times whether Pat was hiding something from her, and he always repeatedly said no. So you could see that she was hurt by this. And it really caused an anger to the point where Bruce Gordan was sitting outside of his window thinking to himself, yep, job done. I've completed my task of ruining Pat and Courtney's family. This was Eclipso's plan all along because it worked with Dr. Mid-Nite's family. In an attempt to break up the family with their daughter's death, that final scene showed you that what he was trying to do with the Dugans. Yeah? So some might even think that the woman Bruce Gordan, and again I'm coming back to what I started the video with, was in love with, was actually Charles McNider's wife. It would have also explained why Rebecca was targeted, because their marriage would have been an obstacle to be eliminated so that Bruce Gordan could have his lost love back. So I think the writers did an impeccable job in this episode, because we was asking questions whether Icicle had really come back, much like Brainwave. So it was nice to see Shade help Barbara out with the illusions. He's obviously stuck in the Shadowlands, but yet he was there to break through to give Barbara some help and support. As for Cameron, he was totally off his character, because when he entered the house, he would have checked on Courtney first thing and ran up the stairs. We also know that he has ice powers. He doesn't have telekinesis, so he wouldn't have been able to choke Mike from that distance. So I think as that scene went on, we kind of knew, yeah, this really isn't Cameron at all. But I was really worried whether that was the real Icicle. Because again, I talked about the purple glint in the eye to let you know Eclipso's taken over this person. And we didn't see that. And I think maybe that was a rolling thing going on. I think that's not a thing. That's probably just me indicating that Eclipso has taken over a body. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because it wasn't with Cameron. We didn't see Cameron with that purple glint in his eye to notify us that Eclipso's taken over the body. There's smart little things there that the directors of the show and the writers have put in to keep us on our toes. Because at one point, I really did think that Icicle was back. And for me, it was a good psychological episode. I know a lot of people have been saying Season 2 isn't as good as Season 1. There's not a lot of action. The CGI has been knocked down because of CW budget. I know that some fans still aren't happy with the lack of action. But the tense horror more than makes up for it in this episode. And I've been getting questions about the show's time period as well. And I did speak to you guys about Earth 2 always being, in the comics and the TV show, that sort of old Earth. And I'm not sure how old Pat is as well. In the flashbacks, he may be 30, meaning he's probably 50 now. So that's where I would gauge Pat's age. But I stated a few episodes ago that Yolanda needed guidance from an adult. And I'm curious to how Yolanda would respond to what the JSA did by killing Bruce Gordan. I said that Pat needed to talk to her. And I think if Pat speaks to her and brings this up, she can move forward. But until that happens, Yolanda is not going to be anywhere near the team. A very in-depth episode, guys. I really liked it. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It really brought the plot on along, and we're in complete and utter disarray at the moment. Courtney's views, she's angry with her mum, Barbara, and Pat. The team is literally split up. Beth is the only one that's in good light, and we didn't see her, so there was no hope in this episode. We've literally got to take it as her staff, Cosmo, is still broken. She can't get up as Stargirl. She cannot don the costume because the power's just not there at the moment. It was just enough to break Mike and Pat out of the spell in this episode. But Stargirl is off the shelves at the moment. Yolanda is off the shelves. Rick is in jail, and everything is just all over the place. There is no ISA either in terms of the other side with Cindy and Isaac, and we know what's happened. We haven't seen Artemis. She ran away hurt from the fight with our man. So we're in total disarray at the moment. So I welcome the fact that Jenny might turn up next week as the Green Lantern, because this team needs some extra help. It really does. So let me know what your thoughts are on the episode, guys, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace out.